Good morning, everybody. We are going to finish our microeconomics unit up today, and we are going to talk about equilibrium. So, equilibrium is when supply and demand work together to determine prices, and it's right here in the middle. If you were to graph it, it's right there where it meets. And so, essentially, what equilibrium is the perfect amount of supply at the perfect price. So everybody got whatever product that it was they wanted, and the seller was happy at the price that they sold it for, and the buyer was happy at the price they bought it for. So remember that supply and demand can shift. This means that equilibrium can change. So in this instance, the demand went up because it moved to the right. So that means that there's a new equilibrium price which is higher than the old equilibrium price. So think about something that may not have been popular before, but it was essential. Something like say like a pair of glasses, just a regular old pair of glasses, no prescription. There's no real reason for you to buy them, but for some reason somebody buys one, like a celebrity, and now everybody's got to have these glasses. They don't actually do anything. They don't actually function, but because this celebrity started wearing them, the price went up, or the demand went up. Well, that company can now charge more money because there is a higher demand. Think about toilet paper during COVID. Toilet paper is a fairly essential need. Everybody needs it, but when it starts to run out, people are more and more willing to pay more money for it. The demand went up, therefore the price went up. So a surplus is when more is supplied than demanded. That's everything up there on this part of the graph. That is where you have a low demand. And I know this looks like a high demand because it is up high, but remember, we do not read it up and down, read it left to right. So because this is farther left, that's a low demand, and this is a high supply. That's something that people don't want, whatever good it may be. You can just think of something that maybe a lot of people used to want, but they don't want anymore. I can remember a time when Adidas was, almost, it had gone out of style. Nobody was really buying Adidas. And now it's fairly back in style, but there was a lot of Adidas just sitting on the shelves and nobody was buying them because they didn't think they were nice shoes. So there was a surplus of Adidas. You can probably think of something that is just there that people won't buy anymore. It's any example you can think of. All right, a shortage is when more is demanded than is supplied. So if you look, it looks like the supply is low. Well, the supply is low. It looks like the demand is low, but it's actually high because it is farther to the right on the graph. Anytime there's a low supply and a high demand, you can charge more money for a good because the equilibrium price is above where it is. So that is called a shortage. Why would a surplus or a shortage happen? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so a price floor is when the government sets up a minimum above the equilibrium price. So I know this is on the top and it's price floor, but it is so that the price has to stay above this, okay? Your example for this is like minimum wage. Nobody wants to work for minimum wage, but everybody that needed a job would work for less than minimum wage. It has happened in the past in the history of the United States where people had to fight each other for jobs, and if you wanted to speak out against your company that you work for, they didn't care. They just fire you and hire somebody else and pay them less money. Minimum wage it is an issue with illegal immigrant workers who get paid cash under the table. It's one of the Republican points of view as to why illegal workers should not be allowed into the United States, because most illegal workers will do hard labor jobs for less money than Americans would do for minimum wage. So people will work for cheaper, but in order for the government to kind of protect workers, they had to set a minimum wage so they got paid a quote unquote fair wage. It has been a while since the minimum wage has been raised. It is probably past time to raise it, but it has somehow become a arguing point for both political parties, and I don't think it's fair to hold people who are in poverty hostage with their wages. That's also not to say that I think that everybody should get paid $15 or $20 an hour, but I think a good cost of living adjustment of minimum wage is due. All right, price ceiling. That's when the government caps prices to keep goods or services from getting too expensive. And that's just the opposite. So you're trying to keep your prices underneath this price, and you see the equilibrium price is much higher. So the example could be the gas cap. Everybody would pay more money for gas. Everybody would pay $5, $10, $15 a gallon if they could for gasoline because we have to have our cars. However, the government sets that price cap. The government sets that price cap to try and help us keep prices down, so that we can actually afford to buy gas and other things. And there's other things like rent control in large cities like New York City. Has a certain rent that you can't surpass, because it is such a large city with so many people and limited limited places to live. They have to cap the rent so that you can only charge so much, because literally people could charge whatever they wanted to in New York City, and somebody would try and pay the prices. All right, other examples of a price floor, minimum wage, and milk price ceiling, rent control in New York City. There it is right there. Gas prices in the 1970s. Sorry guys, we're not going to go through all these charts and everything, but we will go through circular flow right here. So circular flow is essentially just how money exchanges hands. So we are considered households. Obviously, there's the government, business firms, it can be small businesses or large businesses. Then there's banks and the foreign sector. When we take money to businesses, they give us goods and services, but we also work at businesses and they give us wages. That's how money is exchanged between businesses. So you can either work there or buy things from there, and they either give you a good and service or they give you a paycheck. When you go to the government, you pay taxes. The government gives back services for both businesses and households. When you go to the bank, you put in deposits, and they give back interest on your account. That's the APR. So when I deposit money into the bank, I have a low interest rate, like 0.25% that they pay out on my bank account, on the money that is actually in my bank account, because they are using that money to loan out to other people. So they owe me interest, just like those other people owe them interest. So they also give out loans, and the person that took out the loan is paying back interest. Same for businesses. The foreign sector, we send exports, they send money. They send imports, we send money. You don't exchange exports for imports. You exchange exports for money and imports for money. And that is all I have for you in this unit, guys. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all still working hard. I hope this